Muses of Mythology is a spoiler-heavy podcast.
That's an understatement.
We're going to discuss not just the events of this book, but the Rhineverse as a whole, and really anything that we feel is relevant. You can find full spoiler warnings in the show notes. I was also, as I was listening to the episode and listening to my dear friend Spiral, checking the calendar to be like, all right, so how long until Owen's trip to the US so I can check on him in person? Okay, good, good. Soon. Someone needs to check in on that polite British boy. I'm worried about him. Welcome to Muse of Mythology, a podcast where we explore how ancient myths become part of modern pop culture through the lens of Rick Riordan's Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. This is Story 90, Midgard. I'm your co-host and podcasting muse, Darian Smart. Joining me is my co-host and brother, DJ.
How's everybody doing today? I'm DJ the Muse, and I just finished Dragon Ball Super on Monday.
You finished it?
Sunday. Yes, that episode that you left on, that was the last episode.
Ah, well, I mean, I had to go help a friend. It's very good. Okay, we can't talk about this right now. This is not the space. We should do a bonus episode about Dragon Ball, I think.
Yeah, probably, maybe.
We can absolutely justify a Remyth episode about Dragon Ball. We are totally the people who should talk about Journey to the West. All right, but until then, shall we discuss this a little more and muse around in the garden?
Absolutely.
Hey, DJ.
What's up?
I said we're talking about Midgard.
Yes.
Now, you may recall, you DJ, and then dear listeners may recall that at the end of our last actual story episode, I said we were going to be talking about Jotunheim.
Yeah, but, shit happens.
Yes, and then we decided to instead do a live episode from our panel at Boise Comic Arts Festival, which we told no one we were going to do, because on the off chance it didn't work, I didn't want anyone to know about the failure. And then that shuffled some of the scheduling around, because this episode absolutely needs to come out before September 22nd. DJ,
Yes.
Do you know why this episode needs to come out before September 22nd?
Well, it's because our guest is a writer.
Yes, our guest is joining us. We are joined again by fantastic guest, friend of the pod, Fran, a British, and they apologize for that, fantasy and romance author, exclusively writing queer stories, and wants to contribute to the world of queer fiction. Their latest book, The Spiral of Life, a Percy Jackson-esque contemporary fantasy exploring the world of Celtic mythology, comes out on September 22nd, which means you, dear listener, can pre-order it right now while you're listening to Fran say hello. Say hello, Fran.
Hi.
Woo, Fran is back. Fran, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to get you back on.
Yeah. No, I am. I'm very excited to come back and talk about Rhineverse-esque stuff and
it's been a hot
and all that.
It's been a hot sec for you, so I'm happy to pull you back into the fold.
Oh yeah, very much a hot sec.
Well, my friend, do you want to tell us a little bit about your relationship with this series in particular? You never actually got to covering this one on your podcast.
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, because it was timeline order, I had a long way to go.
Yes.
I think I was like, well, I say that. I think I was like 2 books away, because I got near the end of House of Hades. Mm-hmm. The world then sucked, and so I stopped. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think timeline I was like 2 books away. But yeah, so I didn't get to cover on, or maybe 3. I don't remember now. Maybe it was 3. Anyway, so didn't get to cover, but they are some of my favorite books. I did like lots of videos about them on my YouTube channel when I was also still doing that, before I was also like, nah, the world sucks, I'm going to stop that.
Do things because we love them, not because we have to.
Exactly. And I hope one day I can love it again. But, so it's one of my favorite series, mainly just because I love just the fact that the main character is, though obviously, like, he's still a fighter and Magnus still does, fighting with swords, he's a healer at heart. And I love that there is a character whose whole thing is, instead of, being a badass, incredible fighter, not only is he not technically, considering Jack is doing all the work, he is mostly a healer than he is a fighter. And I just kind of love that. I thought that was, like, a really, like, interesting way to take a main character of, like, a fantasy action-ish story to make them a healer instead of a fighter.
No, I love it. It gives me very Steven Universe vibes in that Rick specifically was writing a character who he wanted to subvert the expected tropes for this kind of like young man hero of this magical adventure narrative. And like as the healer, as the protector, as the way he beats the bad guy, not by beating him into submission, but by not even by insulting him, but by literally raising all of his friends up. It's just, it's good.
Yes.
So we were talking about Midgard in this episode. It is the place. It is the most normal. This is the world. This is the world that it's Earth. It's the world that is it Earth? Is it the other planets? Is it the universe? Where is everything else located? I didn't put that in my notes to ponder.
What a realm even means?
Who knows what a realm even means? Great point, DJ.
So many different things. I have seen realm used in terms of dimensions, in terms of planets, in terms of universes. Just, it's a realm, but it's our realm.
It's our realm, yes. It's a realm and it's ours. So, here's what we know about Midgard in the Magnus Chase universe. Now, besides the fact that this is the universe where literally all of the Rick Riordan books of the Riordanverse, of the mythology books take place in, we also know specifically that Boston is the center of Midgard. It is literally in the trunk of the world tree. DJ Fran, do either of you know the canonical reason for why that is?
Oh. I didn't even remember there was a canonical reason.
Because Midgard's is technically like Mir's body.
Interesting. Fran, would you like to wager a guess?
And it's probably going to be wrong, and I'm probably going to offend a lot of Bostonians, which is really funny because most of my American family are from Boston.
Oh, that's so charming.
It's the only reason why I support some of the teams there. It's because I'm contractually obligated.
Mm-hmm.
But is it because Midgard is the most boring and Boston is boring?
Ouch! Oh, wow, Fran. Wow, we have listeners who live in Boston.
They'll agree.
I thought you were just going to say something incorrect, not something mean.
I'm sure a lot of Bostonians are actually offended by that.
Like, Oxford and Boston are, like, twins in terms of, like, the vibes. And, like, Oxford's boring.
Okay.
And I know, like, all the people I know who live in Boston say it's boring. So in my head, I was like, could that be it? Because Midgard is, like, in comparison to the other realms, it's kind of basic.
It is basic.
I think it's only basic to us. Because, I mean, Alfheim looks stupid basic other than the fact that everyone's pretty and it's always sunny.
It's always sunny in Alfheim. Hey, that's going to be the name of the episode. Great. Good job, Darian.
Why would it be the name of the episode? That should be the name of the Alfheim episode.
That's what I meant. The Alfheim episode will be It's Always... This episode is called Midgard in the Middle.
Okay.
So... I'm on a run. So, Fran, you were actually right earlier when you said, I don't think there's a canonical reason, or you didn't remember one. This was a trick question. There is no canonical in-story reason for why it's Boston. It's not like, the Empire State Building is Olympus because it's like this beacon of Western Civ and it's just moved the whole time. We don't have that. That's just not a thing. And in fact... attempting to answer the question, why is Boston the center of Midgard, drove dear friend and host of Through the Mist, Owen, to near madness in a recent episode. And so I, Darian, will not be attempting to answer that question because
I think Rick didn't want to make another Western civilization mistake.
You know what? Yes.
He's like, I just don't want to do that. I think it just, we'll say it and just like leave it at that.
Yeah. So to Owen's credit, he does come up with a pretty good answer because he refuses to let Rick Riordan win. And I respect him immensely for that. A couple things, since this is the Midgard episode, and with the Boston of it all, like being the heart of Midgard, the world tree, the trunk is literally right there. Like, it is there. So I wanted to, take this time to do a little bit, since we're talking about Midgard, since we're talking about the real world, I want to take the time to talk a little bit about the real world relationship with the Nordic people, with, the, quote, Vikings, in the context of the narrative that Magnus Chase is presenting. So, first I want to ask, Did the Vikings spend time in North America?
Yes.
Probably, yeah. I don't doubt
Yes.
The
Fred, do
very,
you know
very
more?
north.
Yes, the very, very north. So we know they have a well-documented settlement that was in Greenland, and that settlement went for about like 500 years. And I don't know if Greenland counts as North America, but boom, they were definitely there. And then we discovered in the early 1900s a settlement that is in Newfoundland, which is an island off the coast of Canada. And in the northernmost tip of that island, we found a settlement that is archaeologically confirmed to have been where the Nordic people, where the Vikings, spent some time. This settlement is now called, and I'm going to butcher this, and I am so very sorry if we have French listeners, and I'm assuming this is French. It's French-Canadian, so that makes sense to me. La Nice aux Meadows. Sorry, gang, I tried. I added some mustard on it for you. And so that was a confirmed settlement that was, for some reason, it didn't last 500 years. It was pretty abruptly abandoned. So they didn't hang out there for very long. But we know for a fact, yes, the Vikings did reach North America. They did, in fact, end up here. And it's not just the archaeological evidence that supports this. In fact, actually, there were stories in the oral tradition, in the Icelandic sagas, that indicated, hey, we went really far away and found some places. So the saga specifically is the one I'm referring to is going to be the Saga of Eric the Red. And this tells of Leif Erikson. Yes, that one. And he explored past Greenland to Hulaland, the land of flat stones, Markland, the land of forests, and Vinland, the land of wine. And the North American Atlantic coast is widely accepted to be the Vinland that is described in this saga. Like, there were just things, there were maps, there were icons that just, it tracks, there were things that were described that it's like, yeah, this literally happened. This guy literally did this thing and made it across the ocean. And that's really cool. And in fact, this episode cannot be all about this, or it would be so much longer, but there's a deep dive into other, like, theorizings of, like, where exactly is Vinland? Is it land of wines? Is it land of pastures? Like, what is it? That's a really fun deep dive that, dear listeners, I recommend jumping into, because that's fun and just not what I'm going to spend a lot of time on here. But those are the points I want to make. Now, the second thing I want to talk about, new question, did the Vikings spend time in the region that would become the United States of America?
No, because Vampire Diaries lied.
God damn it, Fran! I was not prepared. Okay. Do you want to elaborate on that?
So the Vampire Diaries and the originals, I think it was mostly the originals that covered this actually, is the series about sexy vampires in like it's the southern states of America. I don't remember which one. The originals are the original vampires of the people who became vampires, and they were Vikings that lived in the US of A.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I remember watching it and going, that doesn't feel right. Googling it and then going, yes, I was correct. Not agreeing with the rest of the storyline of them being the first vampires, which was cool, but then also being the first Viking settlement in the whole of the United States of America, to the point that they left cave markings showing that they were there. And I was like, no. I knew that there were fake ones. Maybe they were making fake ones and they weren't, I don't know. But I remember seeing it and Googling it because I wanted to see if it was wrong. And it was, because it was.
And it was.
It's the Vampire Diaries in the originals. The writers do not do research.
No, they do not. No is the exact correct answer. Any, quote, evidence that has been found of a Viking settlement in what is the United States today has been proven to be either just a straight forgery or a complete misinterpretation of Native American pictographs or archaeological. That's not artifact. Is artifact the word I want? I think artifact is the word I want.
It sounds right.
Yeah. So that's just like, it's not. This is not a thing. It's not. It is. It kind of ties into the Vinland thing, where it's a little bit like there's theories, and there have been like respected researchers who are experts in the field who have proposed, hey, we found a thing, maybe it's a Viking settlement. And then they do research, they look into it, and they come out and they're like, it's not. So this isn't like a crazy stupid thing to theorize. Like, there is, tying back to the Vinland thing, there is some theory that maybe it was Maine that they were talking about specifically with the grape thing, but like, there's been no evidence to support that. But that theory isn't so like stupid, right? The problem with it is that when folks have tried to really push it forward with really lack of evidence, it's usually because they are trying to drive forward a narrative of like white supremacy, specifically getting in that like this quote like Aryan race and the Nordic peoples and the noble adventurer, like that kind of icky thing. And that could be like, well, okay, hold on, like, why does it matter if Leif Erikson was the first white guy to do it? Christopher Columbus is also a white guy. Fun fact on historical U.S. racism, dear listeners. For a long time, the Italians, not considered white people. You know, because racism.
I mean,
it's
Irish
just
too.
a flavor. And the Irish, yeah, just you weren't the right kind of pasty pale person. So, when you have folks in these like late 1800s, early 1900s being like, no, but the Vikings came here first, and you're like, because white people are so great, you're like, why does it matter? Christopher Columbus. That's the extra layer of flavor that is being missed. So, that ties us into a question I had. Hey, why is there a statue of Leif Erikson in Boston? Because there is. Uncle Randolph points to it as if it is evidence of the fact that we knew all along that the Vikings were here and there was a magic sword in the harbor.
People like Leif Erikson.
People do be liking Leif Erikson. Someone who really liked Leif Erikson was an agricultural chemist who specifically reformulated baking soda. And his name was Eben Norton Horsford. And in 1885, he commissioned the sculptor and poet Anne Whitney, shout out to women doing cool shit in the past, because this is legitimately cool, to create a sculpture of Leif Erikson to put in Boston. Because Horsford was obsessed with the theory that Vikings found the land that would become the United States. And he did a ton of, quote, research on this and wrote a ton of pamphlets about it. And just, but specifically not just, hey, did they get to North America? He focused specifically on the area of New England where he was from and just did a lot of bending over backwards to try to really prove this theory. And this is, again, this is the 1880s. And even in the 1880s, the Buck Wild past, historians and archaeologists of that era were like, nah, this is bullshit, my man.
Bro, you're a crackpot. We like, no, it's just shh.
Yeah, shh. So this statue that he had commissioned was essentially propaganda to raise awareness about his theory. Or not his theory, he didn't come up with it, but about this theory he really liked and was desperate to prove. And like, yeah, they didn't agree with him then.
That's mad crazy to do, but
that it is mad, yes. So these are the things I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit, explore in the podcast for a minute, because it definitely adds a layer of optics with Uncle Randolph being right. In that his theory, it is like, he has no evidence for his theory. He's like laughed out of Harvard. It's not so much he has this pet theory. Like I said, this is not like a super weird thing to be like, this is possible. But he was so adamant that it was true and had no evidence. He is this baking soda chemist from the 1800s building statues as Uncle Randolph. And the fact that he was right and all the layers that go into this theory, we have a little bit of a Western civilization situation all over again.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. Like, it's just, it's Rick doing that thing where it's like, here's a crackpot thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to say it's all good, but this one was fun. Come on.
Fran?
It's a very classic Rick of, you know, taking kind of problematic things and being like, hey, but what if cool people are involved with it? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
Still bad, my dude. Still bad.
That's like it is as in and of itself. The idea of like, hey, we haven't found evidence of it yet, but like Leif Erikson, the Viking explorer, made it to Boston. Like that in and of itself is a fun thing. But when you peel back the layers of like the very white supremacist like foundation of why some people really want this to be true, and not just hey, it's Vinland and it's fun theory, and then the rampant problems of like pseudo archaeology. And just deciding something's true because it's the fun thing, and then how that layers into other wild-ass things that follow that. It's just like, okay, we have a thing. Now, this is not me saying, Rick, bad, don't do this, but it also kind of ties back into, we just made... Also, how is this the heart of Midgard when the world tree... But the heart was not, in fact, where the Nordic people were operating out of. This place they visited very, very briefly. This is the trunk of the world tree. This is the nexus you can travel through.
They felt it in their gut. That is like, yeah, we know it's out there. We gotta find it.
It's definitely the whole putting it in Boston feels like, well, hey, it's near New York, and it's in America, so I don't have to do much, and I can visit it quite easily from Rick's perspective.
And like, that's fair.
Yeah,
I definitely
very
think it's
fair.
more along the lines of like, I want to be able to tie this character to Annabeth and have Annabeth in this series without having to fly her halfway across the world to an area that she probably really doesn't want to go back to.
Also fair.
Yeah. Which does make it kind of almost weird, because like she's in New York and in San Francisco at either point, because her dad lives in San Francisco. And she's originally from Georgia. Yeah. So it makes even less sense that she's in Boston.
She's not from... It's not Georgia. Virginia.
Virginia.
What?
Sorry.
Same letters, yeah. But the family's from Boston. Yes. The New York, Boston, and Virginia are like stupid close to each other.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of...
crazy. It's like...
Like...
In the grand scheme of America...
Yes.
How, like, I might consider the UK a little small because it's smaller than even Idaho. Mm-hmm. New England's like the size of the UK.
Yeah. So that would also be like someone from Virginia might be like, we're not close to Boston, shut up. And I'd be like, I can drive the distance between 6 of your states and I'm still in Idaho. I don't want to hear it.
It's 2 hours from you. That's close.
That's close. That's the same state. That's the same. You could be the same zip code. You have the same area codes 2 hours away over here. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So that's what I just want to spend some time on that, because it's like, yes, it's fun. Yes, it's interesting. But it's like, we challenge the narratives here. And we have friends, so we gotta do it. It's the optics.
It's the optics.
Mm-hmm.
It also just kind of... Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Just because it's also me. I was just like, it just kind of shows, especially considering the time this one came out, because it was like 2016, I think, was when the first Magnus Chase book came out, wasn't it? Or 2015?
Let's see. I've got it right
here. I want
here.
to say 2015, because I remember
2015. Yep.
2015. So like it was a time when Rick could have done some research into this, just to considering
do a quick Google.
Yeah, and just firstly find out the possible, issues behind it.
Rick was also writing Trials at this time.
Yeah, which I was like, my guy,
he had a lot on his plate.
But
there's a lot going on.
Just stop.
But that's a reason it's not an excuse.
I think it's an excuse. Bro wrote 2 books a year for 3 years in a row.
Yeah, which he did as well with Kane Chronicles, and we know how that went.
We can't say he got better at it.
These are better.
We'll give him that. He got better at it.
Trials is my favorite series by him, so...
That's true.
So, I want to talk about one more statue while we're here. And it's also the nexus of the world tree, the point where you can enter and exit onto the branches to travel the realms. And it is the Make Way for Ducklings. Y'all, I really wanted to figure out why it was this specifically. Like, was there a reason? Is there any lore? Like, why isn't it the Leif Erikson statue just placed in a position that happens to be the moment because it's drawn by the whatever that like DJ said, the Vikings knew it was out there drawn. Like, no, it's not. It's this duckling statue. So I did some digging. There are 9 of them. Oh, God damn it, DJ! It's because there are 9 of them.
It's because there are 9 of them.
That's it. Okay.
I will say, to protect Darian, it is still stupid.
It's silly.
Like, these
don't
are
get me
random
wrong.
ducks. Which also, as like Darian noted, because I read through the doc, a bunch of them got stolen at random points as well. So that means one of the realms at one point disappeared.
Okay. So they did, but not the ones in Boston. The ones in Boston weren't it was the ones in Moscow.
Oh, okay. God, that's my bad.
I was about to not. I was like, well, DJ said 9, and he was right. I'm not going to share anything I learned, but okay, I will share a little bit of what I learned. So this duckling thing, it's actually a scene from a children's book called Make Way for Ducklings. Oh. And it's about this mama and papa duck, and they're trying to find a place for their ducklings. Cute. And they end up in the public garden in Boston. That's why it's there, and it was commissioned. The artist is Nancy Scone Dots. And I was like, oh, wait, is this person maybe like, do they have like Nordic hair? No, they're married into that. And the person they married they've been lived in the U.S. for a long time. So it's not that either. It's because there's 9. Thank you, DJ. Yep. But the statue stretches 35 feet long, and it depicts Mrs. Mallard and Jack, Cack, Lack, Mac, Knack, Oack, Pack, and Quack. And so this statue was erected in. Oh my God! I didn't put the date of when this original statue was put in. The book's from 1941. I don't have. Wow! I don't know how I missed that. Well, I can tell y'all this: in 1991, a replica was put up in Moscow, in the Soviet Union.
That's the year it fell.
It was because in the 80s. The Russia's then First Lady, Rasya Gorbachev, came to visit Boston with then First Lady Barbara Bush. And Gorbachev, yes, she just really liked the ducks.
Hey, look, I'm looking at this statue and I love these ducks. I would die.
I love these ducks. There's a tradition of the neighborhood to dress up the ducks in seasonal attire.
It's adorable.
It's like super cute. And so they took the steps to recreate the statue in Moscow. And it is, quote, in love and friendship to the children of the Soviet Union on behalf of the children of the United States. And this, like, statue was literally, like, it's said to help ease U.S.-Soviet tensions at the end of the Cold War. It's also a little bit longer. It's 40 feet long, whereas the Boston one is 35. And yes, as Fran clocked, 4 of the ducklings were stolen by the year 2000, but they were all replaced in September 2000, and to my knowledge are still there. So, like...
Yeah. Oh, was that for the ones in Russia?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, there were ones stolen in Boston as well in 2009.
I didn't know that! I missed that! No one mentioned that! Or they put a new one in.
So,
I'd take one of those ducks.
There was also... Actually, no, I take it back. There were others stolen. So I'm just looking at the story now. So there was one in 2009 where Boston police say that a bronze duckling named Pack has been recovered after being stolen.
Oh, good.
And then in 2009, 3 other ducklings, Quack, Mac, and Jack, had been stolen at various times, and a guy from Weymouth found them and returned them. So, like, again, Rick can research this. Realms were stolen.
That would be a funny gag if you suddenly couldn't go to a realm for a while because the duck was stolen. That's so interesting because I went to like 4 different places trying to learn about these ducks, and they really like to mention that the Soviet ducks got stolen. Oh, the Russia ducks got stolen, but no one wanted to mention that the Boston ducks also got stolen.
They were Soviet ducks at the time, but didn't fall until
oh my god!
Christmas
and in 2016.
Oh my god, very recently, these ducks!
Quack,
we need to get eyes on the ducks!
Quack got stolen.
I'd
In
definitely
2016.
take Jack. That'd be fun.
You just take Jack the Duck.
Just be chilling in my room.
Oh my god. Okay, so those are all of the real-world Bostonian Midgard notes I have, because I fell down a rabbit hole and I had to get my money's worth for that time back. So now, we're going to get into some myth. And first we're going to talk about a figure that's not, like, is referenced in the books, but isn't a super big deal, but is something that DJ has asked if I'm going to talk about multiple times.
Did I?
So here we are. We're talking about Ymir. DJ, who the hell is this?
He's a frost giant. He's the frost giant. He is, from what I remember, pretty much the ground beneath our feet. A lot of dwarves burrowed into his body, became the dark elf realm. I don't remember the name of it. Swallowtime? Something like that?
Sure.
Yggdrasil sprouts from him as well, and a lot of the worlds are connected through that. He is just the soil of which the Yggdrasil uses, if I remember correctly.
That is very poetic, DJ.
But not true?
Well, I mean, yeah, it is.
Okay.
There's just like, the way you framed it makes it sound very nice and very, like, organic, right? Like, there was this ancient primeval being, and when he died, his body became the grass, and the antelope eat the grass, and, you know, that kind of thing. Circle of life. So, let's go to Snorri. I'm gonna bring us over to good old Snorri Sturluson in the Prose Edda, and this whole thing is outlined in the Gylfaginning, right? And I'm gonna give us a Spark Notes version. So, essentially, yes, there is Ymir. He essentially came from, so where Muspelheim and where Niflheim, they didn't overlap, but where the ice of Niflheim could kind of encounter the hot wind coming off of Muspelheim, and it caused it to like drip, drip, drip. From that drip, drip, drip into the Ginnungagap is where Ymir came from. And he's just, like you said, DJ, he is the OG frost giant.
He's the
and
guy.
So, the guy, yep. And so in the conversation, like as we will call, this is a conversation between like a human king, Gangleri, and the high, not so high, and thrice as high, high, just as high, and then the third, who we assume are like, 3 parts of Odin. I say this every time. I'm going to say it again. Mm-hmm. And he actually asks them, like, oh, hey, if he was the first, is he a god? And they're like, no, fuck that guy. He's evil. He's made of poison. And that's why all the Jotunheim who come after him are cruel and terrible. The first
Bastards.
one were born from sweats, and they came from his armpits and from beneath his knees. Fuck that guy. And you're like, okay. So then along came a cow who's formed the same way. And that cow started licking some ice and eventually freed this dude by the name of Buri. And Buri had a son, Bor. And Bor took a wife, Bestla, who was a daughter of a giant. No incest here. We've talked about this in the past. And they had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and V. And those 3 dudes got together and killed Ymir. And then put his body in the middle of the Ginnungagap and then formed the world from his body. So you're absolutely right, DJ. And like you said, when I said, why is Midgard in the middle? And it's like, it's because Ymir was in the middle of the Ginnungagap. Like, yes!
Yep.
But also, murder happened.
Oh, yeah.
This was not a circle of life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, I got his SMITE lore pulled up, so...
Well, we'll circle back.
Yeah.
We'll put a pin. Good, because I don't have any other evidence of Ymir in pop culture, so I'm glad you've got that.
It's like the only one that I know, because, I mean, yeah, he is just... Mm-hmm. He's just the Earth. He is... Well, he's like all, right? But he's just like the Earth.
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, Ymir, so that's his rundown in the prose edit. And obviously Snorri's pulling this from somewhere. And a couple different places, actually. Brief tangent on that. We know it's from like what we have in the poetic eddas. And also, scholars are pretty sure he was probably pulling from some other sources we don't have anymore. Because some of the details told in his narrative are not replicated in the poetic eddas. So that's always just a fun fact. Because in the poetic eddas, essentially we have the Seer's prophecy references Ymir being like the first entity to exist and just a void of yawning chaos. Grass was there nowhere, essentially. And then later how the gods came together and like created dwarves out of Brimnir's blood and from Blan's limbs. And those two words essentially mean like blood and then something else in Old Norse that scholars aren't certain of, but they're treated as proper nouns and so are interpreted to be other names for Ymir. And that's how we get like, yeah, and then we made dwarves out of the guy.
Nice.
We can swing by another poem real quick. Wolfthrandir sayings. And it's that name wisdom game back and forth between Odin and a giant. And when Odin says, like, you know, hey, where did the earth come from or the sky above? And Vafthrumnir says, from Ymir's flesh the earth was shaped, the mountains from his bones, the sky from his skull of the frost giant, and the sea from his blood. Which, so metal.
Hell yeah.
And then we get that same thing, essentially almost verbatim, reiterated in Grimnir sayings, which once again, a wisdom contest. Where did the world come from? It came from Ymir. So we have that as a reoccurring motif of this primeval being, Ymir. And I keep using the word primeval because that's the word I kept finding. Usually I'd use primordial, and I don't really know what the difference is. I like primordial
it's used
better.
Here in the SMITE lore, so.
Yeah, primeval is the word used for Ymir. But, like, if it was Nyx, she'd definitely be called primordial. And I just don't know the difference, honestly. I'll dig into that later. But the narrative of Odin and his brothers killing this dude just came from somewhere else. I'm not saying Snorri invented it. I am just saying someone else added that part. We could have just had, this was a circle of life thing, but murder is there.
It could just be like a regional thing, like Norse decided to use primeval and Greek was primordial.
Yeah.
Because, like, literally in the definition of primordial, primeval shows up. They, like, mean the same thing.
So one thing I want to mention, so I want to just reference a little bit the Grimnir saying passage again, because I kind of skimmed over it, but there's actually a line in that stanza that I want to talk about, is how from Ymir's flesh the earth was made. From his blood the sea, mountains from his bones, trees from his hair, and from his skull the sky. And in the next stanza, from his eyelashes the cheerful gods made Midgard for men's sons, and from his brain the hard-tempered clouds were all created. Go. And so the reoccurring motif of like Ymir's flesh made the earth gives us the idea of the world, but then they specifically note how his eyebrows became Midgard specifically, which kind of ties into a thing we talked about during the Yggdrasil episode, how the notion of the realms as separate places is a more modern interpretation and not necessarily the way these Nordic people would have envisioned their cosmology when it was a living tradition. Because if you have the earth, Midgard would not be distinct from that. And it's not. They say the earth and Midgard is a part of that. And so all these realms are kind of interconnected in a more tangible way on Ymir rather than the Ymir just created Midgard and then other things created the other realms. The idea is like, no, this body created all of the realms.
Yeah.
At least that's how I'm interpreting the stanzas.
There's a good chance that is how it is supposed to be read.
And that ties a little bit more into, that's a perfect transition into a little bit more into the idea of Midgard. Now, we talked a lot about this, but feel like I've talked a lot and I want to take a sip of my water, so I'm going to pitch it to y'all. What's with Midgard?
It's our place.
It is indeed our place.
To be honest, where we live specifically here in the United States, that might be considered another realm, too, if we're taking this take on the realms, right? If Midgard could very well be just Scandinavia, and then like way far north is Niflheim, and a little farther south is Muspelheim, stuff like that. We could very well be in a realm of our own, and Midgard is just that Scandinavian region.
Yes, but the World Tree is in Boston, so, that's what we have to do.
Yeah. It's definitely, I always find it kind of a little bit interesting that there wasn't seemingly anything specifically special made about Midgard, but then also at the same time was because so many things could pass through into it. Mm-hmm. And it kind of seemed like I'm trying not to get confused with Marvel.
We will talk about that later. Don't you worry, Fran. There's time on the syllabus.
But I did always find it interesting that, like, Midgard, for some reason, was the place that everyone kind of almost needed to go to be able to travel to the other realms, because the ducks were the other realms, and you had to be on the ducks to go to a different realm.
I'm so mad that I forgot about the duck thing.
It's not entirely true, because we know they got to Niflheim through, the Scandinavian region.
Oh, you are correct, yes.
Yeah.
I forgot about it. It's been a while since I read them. But
you just have to, the ducks are an easy way to transport to the World Tree on the right path to get to the realm that you want to do, but they're not the only way to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Wasn't it that there was, it was basically everywhere kind of led to Midgard to lead to other places, or am I getting that wrong?
I don't know. I do get the vibe all roads lead to Rome a little bit in terms of Midgard, or maybe it's just easiest to get through because it's in the middle. Because that's what it is. And then, Fran, the thing you mentioned about how it's or maybe DJ, someone mentioned how it's the most ordinary place.
That was Fran. Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's the thing about Midgard that I think when we view it in the cosmology of the Norse, these stories, that's the thing that I think almost gets glossed over, but is something that is the whole damn point of Midgard, right? Okay, so we know it's the middle of things, right? We know it's since it's formed on listen, I said all the realms are made from Ymir, but we know that's not true because Muspelheim and Niflheim came first. According to Snorri, but that's not actually cited in the other thing, so we're all over the place here. But the other realms are made of that. So we know Midgard between Muspelheim and Niflheim. So between these two extremes, the crazy, crazy hot, the stupid fuck off cold. It's between that. We also know it is below Asgard and above Helheim. We have the celestial realm, and we know that true. Another thing about it is that it is essentially what I can understand while trying to physically, mentally comprehend this is that Jotunheim surrounds Midgard. Essentially, Jotunheim is almost the wilds of it. There is the waters that surround all of Midgard, where we'll see Jormungand, and we'll circle back to him in a second. But everything else is around Midgard. It is truly in the middle of all things. And getting into some etymology, middle is, that's a direct where we get that word from. That's what it means. It kind of would roughly translate to middle yard. The idea of the gods building an enclosure for the sons of men to be safe in. Midgard is boring. It is this idea of what the Nordic people would have called civilization, and everything else is Jotunheim and Muspelheim and Helheim and Niflheim and Asgard and Elfheim and these wild, inhuman places where their laws don't govern. It's everything else, and Midgard is where there is structure, where there is order. And then also it's just jumping back to the etymology train just for a second, because I do want to acknowledge it. Yes, the word Middle Earth literally does come from Midgard. It comes from a Middle English literary translation that directly translates in itself to Middle Earth. So, once again, J.R.R. Tolkien really fucking loved Norse mythology, gang. I cannot say this enough. It's all just this. It's all this guy, and you know what?
From Norse mythology, not everything.
Not everything, but a whole awful lot. And you know what? Good for him.
A lot of details and themes, but
Mm-hmm. So another fun fact is that in addition to being like this place where there is like this like lock of civilization, this is order, this is our perceivable world, it's also the only realm protected by the gods. It's also the only realm that's like actually anchored to the gods, because the Bifrost doesn't go anywhere. It just goes to Midgard. So, up to Asgard. And so it's protected by the realms, or it's protected by the gods, and specifically Thor. No other realm has that. And what Thor does is protects it from the monsters and the giants from the other realms, like from these other places that would threaten this piece of humanity's civilization and order, which I think is very interesting for a culture that we often just associate with being like, just barbaric and warfaring and fighting. And it's like, yes, there is a lot of the Vikings were, it means Vikings invader. They were conquerors. This was like a culture of, hey, if you lived a super good life and you died in battle, you get to be in battle for the rest of eternity. Isn't that fucking cool? Like, there's a vibe here, but there's also an understanding and a desire for order and protection in your perceivable world. And I think that's very interesting. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go through the things and say every time Midgard is mentioned. That would be wild. And in fact, I'm going to quote a mention of Midgard that's not from the Eddas. Are y'all familiar with runestones? Not the ones from the books, actual real-world runestones.
Yes.
Fran, I imagine you must be. You live in that part of the world where they're kind of a thing. The kind of runestones I'm talking about are massive. I'm talking about big fuck-off stones with runes carved all over them. I'm talking about runestone capital R. So, I specifically want to tell y'all a little bit about the Freyby runestone, also called Sol 56, found in Södermanland County, Sweden. And on this big fuck-off rock, there are runes engraved, and the rune translates thusly. I know Halstein and Holmstein, brothers, the most rune-skilled men in Middle-earth, placed the stone and many letters in memory of Freystein, their father. And so that word that's translated here as Middle-earth is Midgard, or is a deviation of the word Midgard in like the Swedish language of the time, right? And that's what makes it noteworthy. And we know this stone was placed by two sons in memory of their father. And the eye in question in the stones, it's believed to refer to the stone itself. Like the runestone is telling you, dear reader, dear listener, how it was placed by these two sons in memory of their father. And that's kind of cool. The reason I wanted to mention it here is because the use of the word, like the phrase Midgard, being used as a memorial, like being carved into, not like a grave marker, but kind of like an almost obituary or just like a memorial, this park bench in memory of our father type thing, kind of demonstrates how the idea of Midgard isn't like purely ethereal, purely cosmological. It was how these people identified their living world as they existed in it, like their perceivable world. This was Midgard.
Now, real quick, dear listener, there's more than one of these.
Well, yes, there's a ton of them.
A ton of these runes.
Yeah.
The problem is, Darren, the way you said it is like, yeah, it's like the Rosetta Stone. There's like one.
I didn't say it was like the Rosetta Stone.
The way you implied it, capital R rune stone,
there
that implies only one. That implies
sorry.
only one.
I meant the capital R, like the Freyby runestone, capital F, capital R, and that's what makes it distinct to the little runestones.
Yeah, I just, because when I went to go to look at a picture of these, I'm seeing so many. I was confused for a second.
I see now how the way I presented that information was confusing. Thank you for clarifying, DJ.
It's just trying to read these must have been so ridiculous. They're so curly and swirly. Look at all these. Holy moly.
Dear listener, definitely also go look up some runestone. There's some great ones. Like they're super fun. They're very intricate. They're just neat. I like them. So, the thing about Midgard is, in the end times, just like everything else in existence, it will be destroyed. And the first way it's going to be destroyed is by a big flood, caused by Jormungandr.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to tell us about Jormungandr?
He's a bastard. Big-ass snake, eating his own tail while wrapping around the whole world. It gives us the imagery of Ouroboros.
Yeah, Fran, elaborate, or care to elaborate. Not, you have to elaborate. Fran, anything to add?
You have to. Elaborate.
Expound.
I actually don't remember anything about him except that he's a giant snake eating his tail, and that symbol is used in loads of different things in like media.
Yeah,
Child of Loki, destined to kill Thor.
Yes. Yep. That's really listen. It's a big snake eating its own tail. Yeah, that's kind of the big thing you need to remember about Jormungandr. Like,
and when he wakes up, it's like a bunch of earthquakes and then tidal waves all over the place. It's very scary.
Very scary. As DJ stated, Jormungandr, one of the child of Loki, along with his brother Fenris Wolf and sister Hel.
And of course, don't forget about Sleipnir.
Half brother to Sleipnir. I'm just talking about the triplets.
I'm just saying.
No, you're right. You're right. Half brother to Sleipnir. But Sleipnir got to be Odin's special horse and hang out on Asgard, whereas Jormungandr, Fenris Wolf, and Hela were taken from Asgard and just, well, two of them, they were just thrown to Midgard or other places.
They were villains. Hel, not so much, but the other two, they were villains.
They were destined to be villains, so we will solve the problem by punishing them right now.
Fenrir was a problem while he was hanging around, okay?
No, he was only a problem when they decided they were going to tie him off and he bit off a dude's hand. If they didn't, listen, I will not bother you until I am bothered. And then I will take it too far.
Exactly.
Does anyone want to guess what, etymologically, Jormungandr means?
Big snake.
Exactly! Jormund is a prefix, means something vast and grand, and Gondr in Old Norse actually it's a phrase that can refer to anything that is, like, elongated.
Serpentine.
Well, elongated specifically. So we have a snake, or a river, or maybe the mast of a ship, or also a penis. Any of those things.
Take a gander at my Gondor.
I'm not going to lie and say I didn't think that thought in my head when I was researching it, but I'm glad DJ was the one to present it. So, yes, the name can be reasonably translated to big fuck-off snake.
Hell yeah.
Does anyone want to guess how...
Jormungandr, that guy's a huge dick.
Jesus Christ. I did this. I brought this to the table. I knew what I was doing. Hey, how long is Jormungandr?
Impossibly long.
Okay. Fran?
Do we have like an exact measurement actually?
Size of the Earth?
Fran is correct. Well,
Nice.
we have the lore. Where is my Jormungandr page?
He wraps around the Earth several times, doesn't he? Or is it really just the once?
Oh, you know what, DJ? That's a really good question. I think it's just the once, but I don't have a passage marked to cite it. He wraps around the world and puts his tail in the mouth. And if he's only wrapping around the world the one time, it would make him 24,900 miles long. Or, for Fran, 40,073 kilometers long.
Don't worry, we also still use miles here, whilst also using kilometers at the same time. This country's stupid.
Yeah, why don't you just do the meters? It's the better one. Just do kilometers.
Oh no, we do it in miles.
Yeah. Why? If you have the metric system, why would you just not do the metric? I hate miles and inches and Fahrenheit. I love the metric system.
We have the
better.
rest.
You know,
just for some reason,
2 out of 3 with those, I'll agree with you. Fahrenheit is way better for like weather and shit.
Interesting. DJ, what is the temperature that water freezes in Fahrenheit?
Did I say science, Darian?
That's what it is! That's why we use it for measuring temperature!
Did I say science? No, I said fucking weather.
Why is it better for weather?
Because I could be like, 69 is a nice fucking degree outside. What is it, like 10 in Celsius? No, fuck you. I don't want to say it's 10 degrees outside. I don't understand what that means. And granted, that's what I grew up with. I understand that. But it's like, yeah, 69, not 80. I understand that, like, oh yeah, the higher it gets, the hotter it's going to feel. And once it reaches 100, it's uncomfortably hot.
So 69 degrees, nice, in Fahrenheit is 20.5556 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. It's like the percentage of how a human is feeling this weather.
It is, to acknowledge, it is slightly different, especially because the human body is operating at like a higher temperature but also...
For science, I'll agree with you. Celsius rocks. I love it in like experiments and doing shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for weather, Fahrenheit's the way to go. It makes more sense in terms of like, how am I going to feel today? 69, I'm going to feel pretty nice.
Stop saying. The thing about it is...
just good weather.
Yeah, just the good weather. Look, take a gander at my gander.
Yeah.
So the thing about... But DJ, if you say something's below freezing, that means it's just below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Then if we say it's below freezing in Celsius, that means we're in the negatives at 0.
Yes, I understand that.
I think that's better for weather.
No.
The freezing.
Not.
The temperature that water freezes at.
I understand that.
The rest of the world disagrees with you, DJ. I'm sorry.
I don't care. I don't live in the rest of the world now, do I? I live here in the United States of America, and Darian is wrong on this.
So I'm going to move on. So the thing about Jormungandr, and it's the thing we talked about a lot, right, is the thing you mentioned specifically, GJ. Jormungandr is destined, he's going to unfurl, he's going to cause a lot of earthquakes, a lot of flooding as he gets loose, and he is destined to kill Thor. And Ragnarok, Thor will arrive to defend Midgard as Jormungandr is coming out from the oceans. We talk about how he wraps around the earth, and we view that because we know the earth is a circle, is a globe, so we do all the way around. But I talked earlier about how Midgard's in the center of things going outwards, and Jormungandr really could be like a fence in other, like it would not be incorrect to also have a perception of him being like just an actual barrier, that kind of circle around Midgard. That's not the point I was trying to make here. That's just the thing I wanted to say before I got too far away from the point because I got distracted by Fahrenheit and Celsius. The thing about now, God damn it, now I got to leave it in the episode. The thing about
That's on you.
So the thing about Jormungandr, we've talked a lot about the Thor of it all fighting. They will fight to the death. He will slay Jormungandr first, but after 9 steps, there it is again, Thor will fall dead from the poison of Jormungandr, right? Super fun, interesting fact. John Lindau, who is an American professor just about Norse mythology, we've mentioned him a couple times. He has identified the like bound monster trope connecting Fenris Wolf and Jormungandr at Ragnarok. How both of these are monsters, enemy of the gods, who are bound, and when they become free, that is when the world will end. And this trope also extends to Loki himself. And that's just a fun fact. So that's all about Ragnarok stuff. But the end of days is not the first time that Thor and the big fuck off snake will have tangled. Do either of you
putting him in the ocean?
What?
Putting Jormungandr in the ocean. That's the only other time I can think that he would tangle.
I love that. Fran, do you want to take a guess?
What, like when it happens, or
yeah. They technically, specifically twice. Thor and Jormungandr tangled twice before Ragnarok.
Oh.
Jormungandr accidentally eats Mjolnir.
I was gonna say Thor decides that Jormungandr has been sucking his tail too long and he needs to get past the pacifier.
Aw. I like that.
You're gonna get an overbite. You need it like you gotta stop.
Orthodontia is going to be so expensive to correct that.
Yeah. You gotta weed him off.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm gonna go in aggressive. I'm gonna remove it immediately.
No, you're not supposed to eat your tail. That's bad for you. Take some hand sanitizer and starts like...
DJ, we had a cat growing up who was a black and white cat, but the tip of his tail was brown because he's Tomcat, and he would just sit there and suck. And he was this big Tomcat, but he would sit on our dad's chest and just suck the tip of his tail.
That was
So
adorable.
it was brown. Okay, you're both wrong, but I really love the enthusiasm. Thank you so much for playing this game with me. So the first time So both times are actually outlined not in the Poetic Edda, but in the Prose Edda in Snorri's Gylfaginning, where he has several chapters about how badass Thor is, and we are going to get to those. But I'm going to highlight the Jormungandr ones right now to clear up space for the future Thor episode. So, and I'm not going to read some passages. I'm just going to give you a Spark Notes version because these are a little long. Once upon a time, Thor was hanging out at Utard Loki's hall, and he was challenged, hey, you think you're so big and tough? Why don't you go pick up that big gray cat over there that just walked in the room? And Thor's like, yeah, I can pick up a cat. But despite his great strength, Thor could not, in fact, lift this cat. The best he could do, lifting up, you have to try to pick up a cat and you go from the belly and they just they kind of arc their spine a little bit. The best he could do was get one paw, just one paw off the ground. But he just simply could not lift this cat. Now,
Turns
the
out
next
cat
day,
was Jormungandr.
the next day, the giant revealed that the whole thing was an illusion.
Yeah.
That he had just made, and this was a series of illusions where Thor was like, it is that scene from the Hammer of Thor book where they are just having to play these games with the frost giants, and we've got Hearth being a pinball wizard. That scene.
It's a great scene.
So, now there's one line I want to quote from that. So after Thor finds out he's been duped, and honestly, Utard Loki is actually the fact that you were able to pick up one paw of Jormungandr, that was really impressive. You should be proud. That was really well done. But that's not good enough for Thor. In truth, it can be said that from then on, he was determined to find a way to confront the Midgard serpent. And later on, that happened. And you might think, oh, that's referring to Ragnarok when he'll die. Nope! No, he went out and found this big fuck-off snake. Because here's story number 2, Thor's fishing trip.
Hell yeah.
So, Thor goes fishing with the giant Hymir. Except he's decided to take a page from Odin's book, so Thor has disguised himself as a young boy. And I don't know why. It's not important to this story. Don't worry about it. Except Hymir's one, doesn't think this kid's going to be useful, and for that reason, lets him row out there, but does not give Thor any bait, because he's like, why am I going to waste bait on this kid? So he has to go find his own bait. So Thor goes over to Hymir's oxen and just breaks off one of their heads to use as bait. You will recall, this is the story that Magnus and Sam had to recreate in Sword of Summer when they were trying to get that water goddess's, the net goddess's attention.
Yeah.
So, got the ox's head. He rows out into he being Thor, rows out into dangerous waters, and Hymir is like, hey man, we're getting kind of dangerous, you gotta start watching out for Jormungandr. And Thor's like, good.
That's the plan.
That's literally the plan. So, now I will do a little light reading. So he baits the hook with the ox's head, throws it in, casts it overboard, sinks to the bottom. It can be said in truth that this time, Thor tricked the Midgard serpent no less than Utard Loki had tricked Thor into lifting the Midgard serpent with his arm. And he literally baits it and is reeling the serpent up onto the ship. It can be said that no one has seen a more terrifying sight than this. Thor narrowing his eyes at the serpent, while the serpent spits out poison and stares straight back from below. And Hymir is not having fun. He is not having a good time. This is not the way he thought his day was going to go. And then finally, Thor grabbed the hammer and raised it into the air. The giant, fumbling with the bait knife, cut Thor's line where it lay across the edge of the boat, and the serpent sank back into the sea. But Thor threw his hammer after it, and people say that down on the bottom he struck the serpent's head off. But I think the opposite is true. The Midgard serpent still lives and lies in the surrounding sea. So, the giant cuts the serpent loose before Thor can actually fight him there, and Thor's pretty pissed, so he backhands this dude off his ship and then just walks back to land.
Amazing.
And as we know, Justice High or Third, whoever's speaking, is correct. Thor did not slay the Midgard serpent in this moment. They will meet a third time at Ragnarok. But those are the highlight reel of Thor deciding he really wanted to fight the big fuck-off snake because one time a giant kind of embarrassed him.
This seems very Thor.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very Thor. Okay, DJ, did you want to tell us a little bit about Ymir in Smite? Because we've gone to our pop culture happy hour. I can't say that. That's another podcast. We've gone to our pop culture segments.
Absolutely. So Smite, he's a guardian in Smite 1 and Smite 2. That's no longer a thing. He is annoying. He has like a 3-second
DJ,
stun.
what character in Smite isn't annoying?
All of them. Fucking all of them are annoying. The only one that's not is arguably Fafnir, and even then, can be. He's got like a 3-second stun, like a pretty decent amount of damage, a wall. That wall is so annoying.
Okay.
Anyway, his lore. And he's one of like the original gods, so it's not quite as tied into as Smite as some of the newer ones. As far as it is known, Ymir has long been dead. In Midgard, in the north, it is believed that Ymir's skull is the sky, his flesh the earth, and his blood the sea. Though these claims could merely be the boasting of proud Odin and his brothers, who take credit for slaying the first Jotun and fashioning the earth from his body parts. At the beginning of time, the realm of fire, Muspel, and the realm of ice, Niflheim, met at the place called Ginnungagap, the void of space. Steam rose and froze again, and from the primordial mixture, Ymir, king of the frost giants, took shape. From his body dripped other beings that would become the ancestors of gods, men, dwarves, and of course, giants. Even the mighty Odin must claim Ymir as his grandfather. Yet Ymir, like all giants, was an evil creature, and led his giant brethren against the gods. After ages of warfare, Odin and his brothers slew the giant king, and forged the world from his remains. Yet there are other whispers, rumors that Ymir, though not a god, was a primeval being, and such cannot truly be destroyed. Perhaps he only lies dormant in Niflheim, the realm of ice, eager to return and wreak vengeance upon Odin and his kin.
I like that.
It's a lot of fun. He's got the Cacodemon skins, which are beta skins that you can only get in the betas that have Smite has done.
Oh.
Which means the PC beta back in 2012, the Xbox and the PS4 beta, and they're colored, green, blue, and I think the original is red, respectively.
Oh, nice.
He has one skin that I like a lot called Nuclear Winter, where it's just his base skin, but he's glowing green and pulsing. And when he starts to do his ults, a meltdown alarm goes off, like the durn.
I do not lie.
I love it. I think it's so much fun.
Okay, I just looked up Ymir. What a crazy looking motherfucker. Wow.
It's not even. He had a different design a while ago. They made it look a lot better.
I want to talk about God of War.
Okay.
I lied. I will never talk about God of War again. I don't know enough about God of War. I know Jormungandr is in God of War. That's all I know about that. Now, I'm not going to try to learn more about it, about things I haven't played. And the reason I'm not going to is because I got that Frigga Frey thing super wrong.
Why?
Well, dear friend, the host of Through the Mist reached out about a week ago to let us know that they just finished the Freya episode and how apparently, if memory serves, that's a twist in the game.
Oh,
that's not Frigg. Yeah, that it's because I pointed out how it's Freya's Baldur's mother, and it's not, but it's Frigg. And listen to the episode, dear listener, you know what that was about. But it's Freya, and apparently that's a twist that they're actually looking for Frigga, and then they find out, oh wait, it's actually been Freya. And they have to work out that the fact that they've been actually that's the same person that they've been talking to Freya looking for Frigg, and later on they realized, oh no, we were hoodwinked, bamboozled. And I was like, damn, that's really cool. I don't know how I missed that reading the wikis, so I'm not going to talk about God of War anymore. I will just acknowledge that Jormungandr is definitely in these God of War games. I don't know enough about it to elaborate, but you know what I know a lot about? Ducktales 2017. And now, I get to talk about Ducktales 2017 again. Y'all, we did a whole bonus episode about Rumble for Ragnarok on Patreon. You should go check that out if you haven't yet. It's super fun. It's got our dear friend Tim O'Connor from the Stand By Line podcast. He is there. It's a great episode. And essentially, oh no, he's not on that episode. He was on our Ithaca episode because I wanted to talk about Ithaquack.
Yeah.
We've been doing this podcast for too long.
Doing it for a very long time.
So in Ducktales, it is about the McDuck family. You know, the ducks. You've seen the ducks. Donald and his nephew, Scrooge McDuck, the richest duck in the world. And we find out that Scrooge is the protector of Earth. And every X amount of years, he has to go to Valhalla and fight Jormungandr to keep Ragnarok from happening. It's a full-on wrestling match. And you must be asking, how is this Scottish anthropomorphic duck man going to fight the world serpent who can literally wrap around the earth who knows how many amount of times? We're not sure whether it's once or multiple, who is at least 24,900 miles long. And the answer to that is, well, he just becomes a snake man with like arms and legs. And then they just wrestle.
Hell yeah.
And it's great. And you know what? I'm happy I got to talk about Ducktales again because we got an email recently from a listener. From their listener, Quinn, who was just, and the subject line was Best Boy Storkules. And it was just Quinn saying how they like the show. Quinn, thank you so much for listening. And also how we inspired her to watch Ducktales. And how she agrees Storkules is best boy.
Storkules is great. Big fan of Storkules.
So, Quinn, I know you are just mentioned how you're going to catch up in a few months. So I hope when you hear this a year from now, you know we appreciated that email. It made me really happy. I did immediately send it to Tim O'Connor so he could know the good work he's done in this world. So, that's what I've got from Jormungandr. DJ, is Jormungandr in SMITE?
Armageddon.
There we
Apocalypse.
go.
The end of times. All myths and legends contain forewarnings of a great singular catastrophe when the stars fall from the sky and the very earth breaks into nothingness. Among these days of judgment, none are eclipsed in scale of horror and destruction foretold more than Ragnarok, the prophesied disaster of the Norse pantheon. There is a single being who acts as the herald of Ragnarok, the god known as Jormungandr, the world serpent. A son of Loki, he is an immense serpent dragon, massive enough to encircle the entire world and blot out the light from the sun. Dark omens were whispered of when the world serpent will rise, casting his nauseous poisons out to engulf the whole of the earth. The time Jormungandr bestrides the earth is one of unmatched calamity. The days of Ragnarok where the oceans boil and the land quakes. There are days of incredible violence where both mortal and divine blood shall soak the ground, and the world serpent will mete out destruction and with a fanatic's seal. He will swim through the earth and seas alike with vast snapping jaws and caustic venom sweeping away any opponent brave enough to stand against him. One such champion is Thor, the mighty god of thunder. Long has his destiny been written that he will confront the world serpent in the nightmarish days of Ragnarok. It is a clash that will shake creation, rivaling any battle in history, and one that neither Thor nor Jormungandr may ever walk away from. Woe to any who hears the trumpets of Ragnarok, for they herald the coming of Jormungandr and the instrument of their annihilation. The serpent exists as a bearer of the end times, the collapse of all creation. Who could hope to oppose such power?
Listen.
He has a
Technically,
goose skin,
Thor-
and it's really funny.
He has a goose skin?
It's called Goose Chase. And honestly,
Okay.
it's one of the better skins in
Alright.
the game.
Okay, you're.
But I don't know if it'll be your favorite skin from his. He does have another one called World Kitty.
Goose skin. All right. Oh my god, he's just an angry goose. Just
He has
a
he
big
has
ol'.
a dedicated honk button.
Oh,
you
I
could
see
just
the
honk.
cat. I saw the
World
I saw the
Kitty.
long boy cat. You're right. But a honk
World
is
Sub
great.
is also a really good skin. Big fan
Fucking
of
wild.
like the Jormungandr skin potential is so big.
He's just an elongated dude.
Yeah, it's funny because when he uses his ult, the ult, quote unquote, he goes to his original size, but it's not even the biggest you'll see him in the game because you can see him in the assault map and he's way fucking bigger as a background item than as his ulting.
Fucking wild. Hey, Fran, do you have any examples of Ymir or Jormungandr in pop culture? We don't want to edge you out here.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know any cases that I've experienced them, but I thought just because we found the word primeval, that I would add to the conversation of it, because there is a British TV show called Primeval, which was to do with dinosaurs and portals from the Jurassic and Cretaceous period, where dinosaurs slipped through into modern day Britain. And it was scientific teams who had to find ways to close these portals whilst also getting the dinosaur back into it to send them back to their time period.
Was the show well received? Was this a good show?
It was a really good show. It went on for 6 or 7 seasons.
What a
also
run.
made it. They had one season in the US at one point. Did not go well.
I was gonna say, I think I remember sci-fi being like primeval, and I'm like, I don't think that's gonna last. And clearly, the United States Americans did not care for that.
No, but yeah, no, it was very, very popular. Do you guys know the group from like the 2000s, S Club 7?
I do not. DJ?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Oh, okay. No, for some reason I thought they may have made it to the US. They were.
I mean, maybe they did, but like,
Not to us.
I don't know.
they were basically a co-ed Spice Girls sort of.
Oh,
situation.
fun.
What's another group?
Did they do the theme song?
Or 5. Oh no! So one of the members from it was part of the cast.
Oh, cool. Good
Oh,
for
she
them.
was the girl in. Did you guys watch Agent Cody Banks 2?
Yes.
A really long time.
She is the British love interest to Cody Banks in the second film.
Oh, okay. I do remember
she was
her.
a member of. She's from S Club 7.
Cool. Good for her. Well, friend, do you want... I've got only one for Midgard, and unless DJ's got something else, I was going to offer it to you, friend, so you could do some talking and say some more words in this episode. Do you want to talk a little about Midgard from the Thor comic and movies?
Yes. Okay. If I don't cover what you wanted to say, then you can say it as well. But yeah, so Midgard is... I don't remember which Earth it is that Thor goes to, because there are now multiple Earths in the multiverse.
Earth 616 is the primary Marvel universe where most of the canon takes place in, unless otherwise stated.
I thought the MCU was a different one.
It is a different one. I don't know what the fuck Kevin Feige's on, trying to claim that the Marvel movies are Earth 616. They're Earth like 1999999. We all know this, Kevin. So Earth 616
is immediately recognizable.
Right. So Earth 616 is the comic book one. The movie one is something else, but movie hasn't done too much multiverse stuff yet. So when we talk about the movies, you kind of know what we're playing ball in.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have Thor's movie from the early 2010s. And he is banished to Midgard with Mew Mew as
Mew Mew!
one of the because I can't say the name of it.
That's fine. I love it.
And is stripped of his powers, and basically made to be, in a sense, a normal mortal-ish, whilst also still being, Chris Hemsworth.
Yes.
Having to survive and live in Midgard and being trapped there, because in what I'm assuming is that version of like the Midgard presentation is that there quite literally is no other way to get anywhere else, because the Bifrost is the thing that connects to every realm, which is different to the mythology as well, which, like Darian mentioned earlier, is the Bifrost is only connected to Asgard and Midgard, whereas as we see in the Thor films, the Bifrost is connected to everywhere, basically.
Yeah, it's like a portal system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Portals!
Portals. But Thor is sent there, he is trapped there, and there is no way for him to return until he proves himself worthy of Mew Mew.
The Mew Mew!
And it's basically just kind of our world, but with superheroes. And the gods don't really have any involvement with Midgard in this version of Marvel as well. They're kind of there, and they know of it, and they kind of go to Midgard every so often, but they have no control or power of it, and they don't really protect it until Thor finds and meets people that he really likes. He's like, okay, now I should probably protect Midgard now.
Yeah.
Because there are pretty people.
Because they're pretty, yes, yeah, because there are pretty people. It is interesting how is suggested, stated, implied that during the time of the Nordic people, the Asgardian gods were coming to Midgard pretty frequently and like rumbling with the ice giants and stuff. That happened pretty often, but that has kind of faded out for XYZ reasons that are kind of unclear. Maybe it's super clear in the Marvel comics. I've read Loki Agent of Asgard, Journey into Mystery Loki run, and Young Avengers run with Loki in it, and then I read The Mighty Thor with Jane Foster. That's my Thor comics, guys. If it's not in those, I don't know it. So I'm spitballing here. Don't come at me. I don't care that much. If Loki's not there and Jane's not there, I don't care. But for whatever reason, they're not rolling around anymore until, as Fran said, Thor decided to come back up and actually protect Midgard. But it is interesting because it's like, why is this one planet? Because Midgard in this one is the planet Earth. And this one is like explicitly the realms are just other planets that are interconnected in like the Asgardian Empire, because there are like a ton of other planets that we encounter in like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and stuff as the universe has become more like space epic-y that are not part of the 9 realms. It's just these 9 planets that are under the control of Asgard, and that's those like Empire undertones is something that like Thor Ragnarok tried to play with but didn't really get too deep into, and whatever, we did other things in that movie. That's we just took a World War Hulk plot and did that there.
Yeah,
it's fine. I actually really like Thor Ragnarok, but it's interesting because it's like, why is Earth and the other planets all know about each other? Like, everyone else is traveling back and forth to Asgard and doing things and having hyper advanced technology and magic. And then there's just Earth. And it's like, why is it Earth and not the planet where the Kree are from? Or like the Nova or something like that. And like, I don't know if there's a canonical answer, but I saw a Tumblr post years ago that really stuck with me. And it's the fact that Earth is, as far as we know, the only planet where you can be bitten by a radioactive spider, exposed to like celestial cosmological Infinity Stone magic, or just have a mutant gene and suddenly have superpowers. And that shit just doesn't happen on other planets. And so Odin clocked that and thought, hey, that's weird. We should watch this one and just keep an eye on it.
Weird.
Humans are weird, and we need to keep an eye on them so they don't run amok. And that's always been my headcanon reason.
I like that reason.
I mean, hey,
that is a good reason.
Most aliens that went down to fuck with Earth got fucked with right back.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we're done.
Like, whoa, maybe we really shouldn't be fucking with this place. Whoa,
Whoa! Yeah, we have alien races. None of them have mutants or if they're superheroes, they're all superpowered, or everyone has like this space tech. Like, no one has just these one-off like Miss Marvel, Spider-Man, Hulks. Like, that doesn't happen anywhere else. So, and then Midgard is obviously like a term that like pops up a lot. It's like in Final Fantasy VII, the place that they're at a lot. It's just in Final Fantasy, it's like Midgard. And that's more of just the name of location. Like, and I don't want to get into that. This episode's long enough, and I'm not interested in that. I just wanted to let Fran talk about Thor a little bit, because that seemed fun for me.
I can also reference one other thing. It's not Midgard, but it's referencing realms. And also because you mentioned Tolkien previously.
Please.
I don't know if I'm assuming this may have been true to his real life, but in the film Tolkien, which is the biopic to do with Tolkien himself, specifically what led to him writing The Hobbit. Him and his friends, whenever they wanted to do something daring, and again, this could be something that was made for the film, I didn't fully check this, but it seems like it was probably accurate considering how much he loved Norse mythology, would say Helheimer as a way to kind of like bolster themselves and do something out of the ordinary. And because also they all then went off to war in different parts as well. And unfortunately they did lose 2 of their friends there. So there were four of them. Two of them sadly passed away, killed in the war. But it was a thing that they did and continued to say, and then obviously inspired The Hobbit afterwards as well, based on his experiences there. But Helheimer was a big thing that they used to say as a group.
Nice.
That's very... Aw, I didn't know that. Thanks for sharing that, Fran.
Yeah, and for anyone who may be a big follower, if that's inaccurate, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, you can send us an email. Let us know. Go yell at Fran. Go yell at Fran on their Instagram, whatever.
Go yell at me on Twitter. I'll show you my wonderful breakfasts.
Yes, go follow. Yeah, go. If you're mad, yell at DJ at the Muses on Twitter, and he's going to share pictures of eggs bennies with you, and it'll just make you feel better. Fran, another thing you should share, I think, is a little bit more about your book, The Spiral of Life, that's going to come out September 22nd.
Yeah, I am very happy to do that. So, The Spiral of Life is the first book in this brand new series of mine called Eileen in the Otherworld, which is basically sort of Percy Jackson meets BBC's Merlin, for anyone who may have seen that.
Yes!
And as Darren has read the story previously,
I was a beta reader. I read the whole thing in one night. I was like, I gotta read this for Fran and get her feedback and get them feedback back. And then I just read the whole goddamn thing. Just straight. I had not read anything start to finish in so long. It went down so smooth, gang. Sorry, Fran, continue.
No. That's a very good selling point.
Yay!
But Darren will be aware of how often BBC's Merlin's referenced in the book.
Yes.
And in fact, since they beta read, it's referenced more.
I gotta get. I'm so excited to have the real copy. I'm gonna have it on my shelf. It'll be great.
But yeah, so the story of The Spiral of Life is the first in the series. It is part of an expanded universe as well. So speaking of Marvel, it's very sort of Rick Riordan Presents meets Marvel of there are different pantheons, but they are all part of the same world, and there will be sort of overlapping storylines, crossovers, and all that sort of stuff within this book series with mine and others. So there's T.J. Young and the Rishas by Antoine Bandelet. I know it's very, very exciting, and various different. There's also going to be a Norse mythology series coming out as well. Various different folklores and mythologies are covered as well. There's Polish. There is Jamaican. Yeah, we've got.
Oh, that's going to be so good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're definitely gonna love the Polish one, Darren, when that comes out, because it's got Baba Yaga reference.
I do love me a Baba Yaga. Yes, that's true. But yours in particular, Fran, give us your elevator pitch. You've talked a lot about the vibes, but like who's Eileen? What's her deal? Yes. Why is she a complicated female character that people are gonna complain about not getting more complicated female characters, and then you'll point and be like, you couldn't even handle her?
Yes, so Eileen is definitely the definition of complicated. She is from Balloch in Scotland, which is near Loch Lomond, for anyone who may have heard of that from the song. And she had to leave her home for a good period of time due to something that happened in her past. But her mama, who is her grandmother, has gotten sick, so she has to return home. And basically, things just blow up from there for her life. Real quick, and she is just not having a good time. She gets drowned, she meets a god, and the god says, hey, 17-year-old child, want to help us save the world? And her life was already complicated, and now she has to deal with a missing god on a deadline. So,
on a deadline. We love a deadline.
And she's got issues. She doesn't want to deal with them. And she may have to on this journey with a sarcastic Kelpie and a druid companion who may or may not be a future love interest.
Oh, no.
And it's gay. That's also that's big
very
thing.
Important. It's a
very gay, which I feel is the biggest elevator pitch. It's gay and it's Percy Jackson-esque.
Yep, and we love that. And dear listener, if that sounds like a book, you're like, that sounds fun, I think I would enjoy that. then you should go pre-order it. If you're listening to it before September 22nd, 2024, like, go pre-order the book. There will be a link in the show notes for you to do so. I know you're like, I could just buy it, and that's great too. But here's a fun fact about books, is that pre-order matters so much, like, weirdly a lot. And that's a thing that I think even, like, dedicated readers don't necessarily realize, is how much pre-order matters to a success of the book. So, if you think that sounds super fun, and I know Fran should be pushing this, but I'm going to do it, because I was the one that's like, no, Fran, we'll definitely get you here before your book comes out so we can drive some pre-orders. Come on, gang, make it happen. Just jump in the link, pre-order the book. It's like getting a present for your future self. And doesn't the future you deserve a book to read? And it just shows up at your door. You don't have to go out and track it down. You already did the hard work. It'll just come to you. I think you deserve that, dear listener.
And additional to that, depending on what form you prefer to read, whether it's ebook, hard copy, or audiobook, all 3 versions are available. Paperbacks won't be coming out until next year, but we do have the hard copy as well. But yes, ebooks, audiobooks, and hard copies are available for the pre-orders, and paperback at some point in the future if you prefer paperbacks.
Reading flavors for every reader preference. What more could you want?
Honestly.
Exactly. And for anyone who may be in the UK, specifically London area, I will be at MCM Comic Con London this October, hopefully with Eileen Books if the delivery gets on time.
But, Fran, that's awesome!
So I will be at a table, so if you want to come say hi, get a copy from me directly and support me more directly, because sales in person are usually better in general anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously, online sales are better, but like, I don't have to split with the distribution.
Yes, so you get, the in terms of financial support, it's better if you buy directly from the author.
Yes, and you also get signed copy for free. I will sign them for free. I will leave messages as well. And if you don't want a message, I'll just put my name. And if you don't want it signed, that's also fine. I completely understand. I am currently not that big. So
so you want a copy now before you have to pay money to get the signed copies, as is inevitable. I was at Boise Comic Arts Fest. I bought a comic book, and I love buying comics from indie comics at Boise Comic Arts Fest. It's super fun. And my friend Kelsey also brought the same comic, and I hadn't realized it. And so she's like, oh, I got it too. And she flipped it open and was showing me. And I'm like, they signed yours? They didn't sign mine. And she's like, oh, well, I asked them to sign it. And I was like, oh, I forgot to ask. I forgot that you could just ask. It's fine.
Very much. If anyone is there and sees me at MCM, I'll be in the writer's block. I don't know where that's going to be right now.
Love that name. Go follow Fran on Instagram. They'll post all about it.
Oh, yes. At a dose of Fran. But I'm assuming it may be in the description.
Links will also be in the show notes. I love my links in the show notes. Okay. I think big Midgard episode, big middle of the world, middle of all of existence. Everything orbits around us, and currently everything orbits around Fran and their books. Coming out soon. Go pre-order it. Go enjoy it. I told you, I read the whole thing start to finish in one sitting. It was great. You will love it. I promise. And if you don't love it, go yell at DJ on Twitter and he'll show you pictures of his breakfast.
Also, you're welcome to leave a review if you don't. Reviews are super important, whether good or bad, because that shows that my book is worth promoting on other forms. Even if you give me a 1 star. 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, always good. But reviews are the main way to get noticed. Unfortunately, the algorithm is a bitch.
It is. And that statement applies only to Fran and their books. If you want to leave us a 1-star review on this free podcast you just listened to, why don't you just instead go yell at DJ on Twitter and he'll send you pictures of his breakfast. This was free. You didn't spend any money.
We'll see.
We'll see. But that only applies to the Fran's books, the what you paid for. This is a free podcast. You could have stopped listening at any time. I don't want your 1-star review. It's not helpful to me. I don't care.
Valid.
All right. Well, Fran, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being up until 3 a.m. in the goddamn morning to be on the show. It's been a blast. Maybe go take a little nippity nap before you get back to working on the last parts of the book you got to get done.
Oh, yeah. I would. Unfortunately, I need to do this, so I won't be up later.
All right. You're going to go write it. All right.
I can power through. I've had caffeine. It's okay.
Perfect. Dear listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back in your ears on Tuesday, September 24th to talk about Jotunheim for real this time. I promise. And until then, don't be like Zeus.
Don't be like Zeus.
Muses of Mythology is created and hosted by Darren and DJ Smart. It's edited by Darren Smart. The show is produced by Darren and DJ Smart, as well as
Tim O'Connor.
The Crystal Conman.
Nicholas Miller. Our music is Athens Festival by Martin Hain. And our cover art is by Audrey Miller. You can find her on Instagram at Bombshell Nutshell Art.
Want more Muses of Mythology? Support the show on Patreon. Just $1 gets you exclusive bonus content. Get more at patreon.com/Muses of Mythology.
You can also support the show by leaving a review at lovethepodcast.com/Muses of Mythology. Or tell a friend why you love the show.
Don't forget to check out all of our episodes and episode transcripts at musesofmythology.com.
Thanks for listening.